Blackstone Audio presents The Teapot Dome Scandal, How Big Oil Bought the Harding White House and Tried to Steal the Country, by Laton McCartney. For Ryan. Author's note. In the interest of full disclosure, I should mention that my family benefited from some of the ill-gotten gains accumulated from the Teapot Dome affair. In 1935, my father, Frederick Laton McCartney, then going into his senior year at Yale, spent the summer in Europe. By the time he got to Paris in late August, my father was flat broke. Desperate, he called the only person he knew in the city, Harry M. Blackmer, one of the chief participants in the oil swindle, and asked for a loan, explaining that he was Fred McCartney's son. At the time, Blackmer was living in exile in Paris with a $10 million teapot windfall, and his mistress and later second wife, a Norwegian opera singer named Ada Narrator. A former resident of Denver, Blackmer had often played golf with my grandfather, but as a wanted man, he was leery that my father might be an FBI agent or a journalist. "If you're Fred McCartney's son," he asked, "how would your father play the 13th hole at the Denver Country Club?" My grandfather was a champion amateur golfer and the designer of the golf course in question. He was also left-handed, which meant that his game, and in particular his strategy in playing the 13th hole, differed from that of right-handed players such as Blackmer. After my father, a golfer himself, explained how Fred Sr. typically played the 13th, Blackmer gave him his address and asked him to come right over to his apartment. There, my father enjoyed a lavish dinner and drank champagne with the old rogue and his Norwegian ingenue, while Blackmer pumped him for news from home and later presented him with $150. That was a sizable sum in 1935, more than enough to sustain my father until his ship departed a few days later. Part 1. Harding. 1. A Reversal of Fortune. Ardmore, Oklahoma, November 21, 1920. The oil king of Oklahoma came back to the Randall Hotel and flopped down on the bed in room 28 without undressing. It was just after 6 p.m. Jake Heyman had been drinking most of the afternoon. He needed a nap if he was going to make supper. Clara Heyman was in the adjoining room when Jake came in. She listened as he dropped his keys and change on the bureau and collapsed on the bed. She and Jake had been together 10 years. They shared the Heyman name, but were neither married nor related. A few months after they met, Jake had paid his nephew, Frank Heyman, $10,000 to marry Clara and then sent him off on the first train to California. The marriage had been a blind. Jake wanted Clara for himself. Sharing the Heyman name made it easier for them to travel together, registering in hotels as Jake and Clara Heyman. Jake had left his wife and 2 children for Clara.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?